Now live and on lockdown.
Are you ready?
Broadcasting from Edinburgh, Scotland and across the globe.
Listen here.
You're listening to Ramsay Unleashed, Going Beyond Borders podcast. The host, Fraser Ramsay.
Hey, this is Afia Leatham, creator of the Frame Your Day app, helping you walk out every day in victory. I'm proud to be a sponsor of Ramsay Unleashed, Going Beyond Borders.
Hi, this is Zakia Ringgold from naturalsoapbyzakia.com, proud sponsors of the Ramsay Unleashed, Going Beyond Borders podcast.
Welcome to another edition to Ramsay Unleashed, Going Beyond Borders. We're our guest all the way from Tennessee in the USA. Am I keeping it going beyond borders all the way in America and things? And I like interviewing people and connecting people and basically bringing their brand to the UK or internationally. That's what I like to do. And my guest today is Marcia Whyte. So we'll be talking about her business, what she does, a bit about her background, where she's obviously growing up, and just obviously a way that hopefully what she does will resonate with you and you'll be able to connect with her afterwards and hopefully maybe get some exchange business or whatever you choose to do, and hopefully and basically to hear her story. And her story, well, what she does and what she's been through and anything in her life that will inspire you in some way or form. And that's the main thing, is what I like to do, is inspire people and to hopefully encourage people through other people's stories. Because at the end of the day, it's not about me, it's about my guest. And that's the main thing. So I will also have our usual shout outs on the podcast, people who support our podcast, and we thank you for them. And we'll end. Usually I've lined up some tunes, but I will probably pick some random tunes to the podcast and just play them because I like supporting upcoming artists around the world. And that's what I'll do. So, and also, so as I say, we will hopefully aim to get another topic of a wee inspirational 60-second tips. I used to get some BENITA Charles does a 60-second singing tips. I've not done one in a while, but I'll hopefully, as I say, would like to try and get somebody to do a wee 60-second spot for me going forward, and I like to support what they do. So, Marcia Whyte to the Ramsay Unleashed Going Beyond Borders podcast. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you guys over there across the pond?
Yeah, it's cold. I've got the heating on. It's certainly a bit chilly, to say the least. It's kind of keeping warm.
We've had our first warm day in a while, so I'm really happy because we've been having some low temperatures here, but it's 60 right now, so yay.
I'll take 60. I'll take that, no problem. It's been not too bad today, but it's certainly, it's been quite pleasant, but it gets cold. It's getting chilly at night now, but hey, that's Scotland for you. So tell us a bit about who is Marcia Whyte. Let's start with this. Usually I do a plan when I talk about the sort of the before, the life growing up, and usually I do then the middle and what you're doing now. So I'm going to mix it about a bit just to sort of keep it interesting. So let's talk about what you do now, and then obviously we'll backtrack to how that all came about. So what is it you do now, and tell us a little about what the now.
Okay. Well, again, my name is Marcia Whyte. My company is Gratitude Speak, and I do speaking and coaching, business coaching, specifically in the client experience arena. And the reason why I'm so obsessed with this, so committed to this, is I know what it feels like to not have a great experience from the consumer end, from the employee end, and from the peer-to-peer end of the business spectrum. And when I say client experience, Fraser, it's not just client or customer service. A lot of people get them mixed up. They're not synonymous, though they're related. And the best way I can put it is, if you as a business owner or manager or employee cannot move your customer or client or patron or guest or whatever you call those you serve, if you cannot move them from the information or discovery phase through that and to the investment or payment stage, you have no customer or client to give service to. So customer service is an integral part, but not the only part of the experience. And I think so many times businesses missed the mark when, oh my gosh, over 20 years ago, the big computer giant Dell assigned a client experience council just to keep on their radar, what we now know as journey mapping, what a customer went through or should go through from start to finish. And that's something that I'm determined to bring to small businesses, to entrepreneurs, to solopreneurs, because it's time for all of us to get a piece of that pie that we can enjoy thoroughly. So I speak on it. I do corporate trainings. I do individual trainings. I have a lot of fun and hopefully, make a little bit of a difference. So that's basically what I do in a nutshell.
Okay. So that's what we'll do. So dissect that a bit more later on. Let's talk about there's something that's good to when you lead up to how you got into all that. There's always the foundation part, because it doesn't just happen overnight. You obviously have to go through a process. So tell us before now the people listening have heard what you do. We'll dissect that and we'll but tell us about your life. Tell us about growing up. Where were you born, brought up, background, school? What was life? Was it good, bad, indifferent?
It was all of the above.
Okay.
I grew up, I guess, middle class working family, Midwest ethic. I'm born and raised in Chicago. And my mother was an entrepreneur early. She was a seamstress and designed for people who sang primarily, but she did, a lot of people's other dresses. And then she went back to school, got her degree to teach. So needless to say, my brother and I always had to have our homework, and good grades right. And my dad was a cop. Working, I'm a baby boomer, so here we are in the 60s and 70s, a lot of unrest, racial tension in Chicago. And I survived it, thank goodness, and I think I made something of myself. Or I'm still making something of myself. Life was pretty good. I mean, it was not without its ups and downs. For instance, one of the things that made me so sensitive, because I have a fairly varied background. One of the things that made me so sensitive to others is my older brother, my only sibling, God rest his soul. Now, he left us in 2012. Okay. He had at the time, a very rare blood condition. Okay. And he was known as a bleeder. Right. And kids, kids can be cruel little people. And sometimes oftentimes they would, hit him or throw rocks or things just to see him bleed. Because like I said, when we're little people, we're awful. Yeah. And it was too much for me. So I began to fight, and the roles were reversed. I became the little sister protector from the big brother. Now, he wasn't a wuss. He wasn't a chump, but, you could very easily and very severely injure him. So, watching someone grow up with a condition like that and watching my mom and dad struggle. Sometimes my dad worked even 3 jobs. Most times he worked 2. I had to grow up really fast. My mom said we were never children. We always had to be little adults. But I began to kind of make a name for myself as one not to be messed with. And I still kind of carry that mantra today, because that's how I raised my kids. My husband was the big, gentle giant. And I was kind of like the mean little terrier that would, get after you if you crossed me. So, but it made me more sensitive to the plight of people and what they deserve, how they deserve to be treated. So
how was it then in the days of, obviously, with your dad being a cop? How did it resonate? I mean, did you ever have the standard fear that you probably get that not obviously if a policeman in the line of fire,
come home at night,
will he come home at night? Is that kind of always there? I mean, as a child, because it can't be easy.
No, it's not. The one thing, though, we were taught was a respect for the law. Now, I will say this, many, many years removed, being a policeman's child back in the day, especially a young teenage driver with a fairly lead foot, My dad's name got me out of a lot of tickets, but don't tell anybody. So that was the good thing. The bad thing was, and I guess in my sense growing up at the time, it was kind of bad because it's like, dang, I can't get away with anything because everybody knows my father. He had trained, he was one of the original cops when Chicago Park District and the Chicago Police Department merged.
Okay.
So he knew a lot of people. So I always felt compelled to try to get away with as much as I could without getting caught because I didn't want to deal with the consequences. And we're just going to leave that right there.
You might not be sitting here right now if you had.
Absolutely. So, but I did grow up with a healthy respect for the law, a healthy respect for order, and a healthy respect for law enforcement when carried out responsibly and ethically. You know what I mean? And with all the stuff that's going on right now over here in the States, it breaks my heart, to see what we've become in terms of citizens and law enforcement, because I can sympathize with both sides, and I know my dad would be disappointed. But the other thing I always had a healthy respect for, my brother and I both, Fraser, was we were never, ever, not even once tempted to play with my father's weapons. Right. And we knew where they were. We didn't have a safe in the house. He didn't lock them up. He said, this is my work stuff. Don't touch it. And that was enough for us. You know what I mean? So, but that was a different time. Families were not nearly as distracted and fragmented and having so many other things to do. Mm-hmm. And there was also a time when all your neighbors knew your business. So, you couldn't get away with too much during the block. And let me say this, there were 5 policemen that lived on our block. So we all were, we all kind of towed the line. So yeah, there we go.
Brilliant. That's good. So you were saying briefly, you obviously you did your homework. Obviously everything. Your mum was a teacher, but I missed that point. Yeah, mum was.
My mom was a teacher. She taught high school. She taught high school English, and she taught business. Back in the day, most of your, I don't know all of your demographic, but some of the younger demographic may not even know what shorthand is. She taught shorthand, and I'm sure they have, it's not called typing anymore. I think it may be called keyboarding, but we had old-fashioned typewriters. Mm-hmm. And so she taught that. So I learned to have, good diction, good grammar, good spelling, good reading skills early on. Mm-hmm. And thankfully, I never had to. I did take typing, but I never had to do shorthand. By the time I entered the workforce as a secretarial, I got summer jobs in offices. They had, the little dictaphones with the little tape recorder, so I could just plug in the tape. I didn't have to sit there in somebody's office and take it down as they were talking. So that was helpful. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So anyway, so tell us about your obviously next kind of your schooling. You've had a strict discipline. Your dad's a cop. Your mum's a teacher.
My mom was actually the disciplinarian because she was home more than my dad.
That's good. But you're not going to get away with not doing homework. So basically, you've you've had a good grounding of.
My mom was no joke.
That's good. Well, it sounds like you've had a good grounding in your upbringing. Obviously, everything. Which is a good focus, which is good, and not. It's obviously so. When you finished school, what did you do afterwards? Did you go to college, university, or what?
Yes, I went to college for business, and because I liked, money, okay. And I started working in a law firm, and I toyed with the idea. I started as a legal secretary in a small firm, and then I went to a larger firm, a global firm actually. Mm-hmm. And started working for one of the partners, and then kind of toyed with the idea of law school. Took some paralegal studies, mm-hmm. Got a degree in that, and they had a short degree. They call it a short degree certificate program. Got that, and the weirdest thing, I think it's still crazy to this day. I was working again for a partner, which means my salary and anything that I had came directly from his funding, his portion of the profits in the firm. But there were people that actually worked for the firm. They would work for a department. And so once I finished that school of study or course of study, the firm made me an offer. And here's the crazy part. The offer was, are you ready for this? Mm-hmm. I could work for the department, which means I would have more people to report to for less pay.
Oh, right.
So I'm going to give you 3 guesses, and the first 2 don't count, which option I took.
No.
Yeah. So, I thought that was very interesting. And I liked it, but after a while, I capped out salary-wise, and I knew it was time to move on. In the meantime, I had felt a call on my life in ministry.
Okay,
and
interesting.
Yes, I know. But I've always been very deep in my faith. So I had a good talk with my pastor. And he said,
what we'll do, pause on, I'm going to pause you in there. We're going to come,
okay.
I'm going to take a break because this could be interesting. I like to dissect this a bit more, but we'll come into that. I'm going to pause you there. Listeners who are listening will be in suspense. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to do a shout out to our usual people who support our show. My show, Ramsay Unleashed, Going Beyond Borders, and we do support these, giving the shout outs to the people. It's great to support them. I've got to myself. I obviously support my own show because I'm edinburghdusters.co.uk, Cleaners Edinburgh. If you're looking for cleaning services, as I say, there's me, and I can come and help you clean your house if you're struggling. But there's Ideas Go Live, web design by John Drummond. He designed my business website, and he's also a partner for the project I'm doing as well. Which is great. So it's John looking for websites. John Drummond from ideasgolive.com, a fantastic guy and brilliant for what he does. Shout out to BENITA.com, BENITA.com, he's a musical artist and usually provides her 60-second singing tips as well. The Guy R. Cook, who also does the Guy R. Cook Report podcast. He does websites as well from vDomain Hosting. So I recommend these guys here. EileenSmith.com. That's ILEANAE Smith.com. And you can always look at our YouTube channel. She's testing live streaming platforms and constantly doing things. So if you're looking to try to podcast or live streaming things, I recommend Eileen Smith. Brent Mann Music. Brent Mann is a country gospel singer lives in Tampa, Florida, originally from Canada. He's a great supporter of us and may recommend supporting his music. Fantastic guy. Shannon Griffin from For Humanities does t-shirt design, and also highly recommend her. If you want to looking for some t-shirts or to start a t-shirt business, you can have a look at some of the stuff she does. She's constantly going live on Facebook, so you can't really miss her. So I certainly recommend Shannon Griffin. So that's our supporters. As I say, we also are mainly sponsored by KingdomWeeds.com, which is, actually changed now. It's not Kingdom Weeds, it's actually Frame Your Day app now, because it's the same person, Aoife Leatham, who has created Frame Your Day, the Frame Your Day app, which includes Kingdom Weeds and Zakia Ringgold Natural Soap by Zakia. So, and you can certainly, thank you for them. And thank you for the people who do support us and listen to us. As I say, we're here to help, we're here to support, here to inspire people, and here to bring your brand to an international podcast in Scotland, as to bring your brand to the UK, basically, and also upcoming artists and their music. So anyway, and that's my shout out to everybody. And we're going to have some random tunes during this podcast, but we're going to get back to my guest. My guest is Marcia Whyte, all the way from Tennessee. Maybe drink the whiskey and Jack Daniels, but maybe not. but we'll come back to my guest, and I'll stop waffling on. Anyway, how you doing? You still surviving?
I am.
That's
and
good.
just the distillery in Lynchburg, Tennessee, to which you just referred, Jack Daniels, is probably about 2.5 hours away from me. So
that's not too much, Chris. That's not
a
too
healthy
bad.
Little distance. Mm-hmm.
That's good. That's cool. Well, anyway, let's get back to the point where we teased. The next part is I kind of stopped her because I didn't want to go too far. Let's talk about your faith. You mentioned you have a faith. Tell us about your faith. Tell us, how did you get into it?
Well, my mom and dad took us to church all the time when we were growing up. And I grew up initially an Episcopal. And after a while, as a teenager, when I got to be about 13, it just wasn't working for me anymore. Here's the thing. When your mom is, the head of Christian education, and you can only be, Mary in the Christmas pageant so many years and the narrator of the Easter pageant and all that, because you don't have a choice. But there weren't the kind of young people-oriented programs that I was looking for. And a friend of mine who lived next door to us said, you need to come to my church. We have a new young pastor, and he is just really on fire, and he has a heart for young people. And she just went on and on and on. And she kept after me because I had decided I wasn't going to church anymore, and I was going through my defiant, I know everything. I'm now a teenager years, I'm double digits, so you can't tell me anything. Cut to the chase. I finally said to her after like the umpteenth time, girl, if I go to church with you at least once, will you leave me alone about it? And she said, sure. And I did. I went to church that night, and the sermon touched me that I walked the aisle that night and fully committed my life to the Lord because it was a different way that the message was brought, the music, and I saw so many of the other young people in the neighborhood that I had been, raised with, went to school with. They were all there and active. And I thought, this is what I've been looking for. And I stayed at that church for that was around 13. And I didn't leave there until I was almost 30 because I went to seminary. When I felt the call on my life, I sat down, as I told you before we went to break. I had a talk with my pastor, and he said, if this is something that you think is worth investigating a little more, I will write a letter of recommendation for you. And so he and some other people did. You have to have character references and business references and all that to see if you're the kind of student they really want in the program. And so I pursued my Master's of Divinity. And it was interesting because, Frazier, I will tell you, it is not something I ever saw for myself. There were, I don't know if they were ever big in your country, but years ago there were, we have a cereal here called Raisin Bran, Kellogg's Raisin Bran. And they had this really cute advertising or marketing campaign that had a little animated group of raisins. And since raisins here primarily are grown in California, they were called the California raisins. I know it's terribly original, but wasn't my marketing campaign. And I had a shirt that said, from hell raisin,
Yeah, got you. Yeah.
to Jesus praising. And I wore that shirt proudly because that was kind of my story. And as it turned out, through seminary, I had to leave the church that I loved and go somewhere else because, in the Bible, it says a prophet is without honor in his own land. So I went to a church in about 15 minutes away to do my field placement. Now, just before that, when I said I tried running from the call, which I don't know how many people you've talked to that have felt the pull of ministry on their life, it's a daunting task to consider, really, because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to preach and teach and lead people who know not only all the skeletons, but where they're buried? And so I tried everything I could to run from it, to fight it, to disown it. I even went so far as to open my own catering service because I loved to cook. And I used to do party planning consultations. And I justified that by saying, well, there's a scripture in the Bible where Jesus says to Peter, if you love me, feed my sheep. So I'm feeding the sheep. And several of my, closest friends said, that ain't what he was talking about.
What's your favorite dish?
Oh my gosh. Anything with pasta. Okay. Anything with pasta. In fact, we just had shrimp scampi last night, but I love, there's a dish that one of my bad habits, I guess, is I'll go to restaurants and order something, and then I'll go home and recreate it. And so I had this wonderful chicken dish that had a Chardonnay butter sauce with roasted tomatoes and mushrooms and artichokes. And I think I make it better than the restaurant.
Oh.
So it's served over pasta. So there you go.
That's nice. Well, I've just been cooking, as I say. This made me forget that we're actually doing a podcast. Even though I phoned you yesterday to remind you, I just confirmed what time it was again. I was in the process of cooking a roast chicken, but I slightly different. So I've got the roast chicken, and instead of a usual breadcrumb stuffing that you put inside the chicken, I got pork mince, or like shredded beef or beef, whatever you different over there, but pork mince, and mixed it with a chopped red onion, 2 eggs, and broccoli rice. Added some garlic and mixed herbs into it, mushed it all up, stuffed it inside the chicken, and then I covered the chicken with streaky bacon, and then cover it, and then stick it in the oven and roast it.
That sounds yummy.
Yeah, so I will know if it tastes. Yeah, because I've got once it's ready. Once I've done this, I'll be able to eat it. So the prep, but it's on my story on Facebook actually. You're able to see the prep. So once it's finally,
I'll have to go look for that. Definitely.
Yeah. So it's a low, and I'm cooking some sprouts to go with it. It's a low. Because I do keto style eating. It's low carb, high fat. So. And it fills you up, so it's to get the nice good fat inside you, and it's great. Love it. So and the flavors are all there, so it's all good.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful.
And it's actually
it's a little far for me to run it, or a little far for you to send me a plate, but I'm gonna look on your stories on Facebook and see how I can recreate that.
That'll be a good thing. So I do like I'm a bit always, because when you bacon and you cover your chicken or your turkey in streaky bacon, and you cook it in the oven. You get you get the nice crispy bacon at the end, but the flavors and the juice and the everything is just.
I've wrapped a meatloaf in bacon before, but never a chicken. So that'll be one on my list to do. So thank you for
look at my story. Yeah, that's what I like to do. It's all good.
So you're with Peter too. You're feeding the sheep.
Well, I'm feeding myself, kind of thing. So, but yeah. So as I say, I like cook. So you recreated that restaurant dish, which is good. What other kind of food do you cook?
My favorite cuisine, hands down, is Italian.
Okay.
More not the seafood part, but just the light sauces, the pastas, the way that they do vegetables. It's wonderful. I love just about any roasted vegetable.
Okay.
We could go on. We could turn this whole thing into a food.
But
I don't think your listeners want that.
Yeah, they'll be hitting their kitchen as they listen to us. Hey, you're making me hungry. Help.
Exactly.
But that's cool. Well, that's good. So as you said, you got into the cooking to feed your sheep. So
feed the sheep. And that it was a successful business, honestly. It was a successful business. I had a very targeted niche market. Even before I realized what targeted niche markets were, I knew exactly who I wanted to serve. And that was small.
I have to say, I was quite impressed. You say niche. We say niche. And some people say niche over in America. And
yeah.
You've got it right.
But I say ambulance, and some people say ambulance. So, I mean, it's tomato.
That's impressive. Usually, because your niche in America, I thought, well, it's niche.
Okay.
It's quite impressive.
Well,
you say it correctly. Well, hey, I'm impressed.
Look, I take cream in my tea, so, there you go.
Interesting. Yeah. Cream as in full fat milk, or are you talking about? Or actually double?
I'm talking about flavored creamer, but sometimes I'm not above putting like real whipping cream in my tea. Okay. With a little honey. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, you know what? We're going to turn this into a food show.
Right, okay, well, that's an interesting combination, but I believe that we don't have an hour day. Anyway, so carry on. Sorry.
So, I had the catering company, and actually, I kept it because that helped pay my tuition, the extra money, because I was still working full time, going to school full time at night. And, fitting in the catering jobs when I could, but, it helped tremendously. And then I went on to be granted then I ended up marrying my best friend who was also in ministry. he and I were on similar journeys. He had given up a lucrative government job and had been one of my trusted advisors. And we had been friends for about 5 years. And it was pretty amazing because the two other people that we were closest with actually ended up going into ministry as well. So it was kind of the beginning of a secret club of unknowing ministers in training. So it was great to have people to bounce things off of. And Jim and I really had something special. We became a real great team, and just had so much fun over the years. And we were friends for 5 years and married for almost 24. And we were as different as night is from day in terms of our styles, in terms of the way we studied and prepared, but it worked. And then Larita and Donovan, who were not a couple, just two, other friends, we could bounce things off of them, and they came from other backgrounds. So it was kind of cool, had really fun conversations. And I've lost track of Donovan over the years because, sometimes distance, but Larita and I still talk often on Facebook and my phone. And whenever I go home to Chicago, she's still there and we hang out around food because she loves to cook too. You sense a theme here. Everybody likes to eat. But it was a good time in my life, but it also, again, reaffirmed or reconfirmed that I have a heart for serving. I have a heart for relationships and making things as comfortable as possible, not being a doormat, Fraser. I want to be very clear, but seeing the possibilities of what can be in a relationship, be it a regular, everyday friendship, a love affair, a business relationship, whether it's, colleague to colleague, peer to peer, or employee employer. So that has served me well through the different careers, because one of the things when I was working at the law firm, my boss was, he was of German descent, of Austrian descent, actually. And we had several clients that I helped keep the relationship going because he was very much the legal beagle. He was a very nice gentleman. Please don't misunderstand me. But he was very much into the law and whatnot. And so sometimes the relationship was a little lacking. And I helped take up that slack, or at least I like to think that I did. So I knew that there was something for me. I didn't know what, but that came later in my life when I discovered how it all, kind of culminates the older you get. So, yeah.
Wow. Certainly. So now you've finished ministry school.
Yes.
Where did you go next?
School-wise, that was it.
Right. So
I was schooled and student loaned and tuitioned out. Okay. But next for me was, as I said to you earlier, the law firm had lost its luster for me. I knew I had capped out salary-wise. I knew I wasn't going to law school. And I was tired of being support staff because I felt really underappreciated and definitely underpaid, especially considering what they would bill clients for, but what I was actually getting of that. You know what I mean? Because what the client bill reflected was nowhere near what my paycheck reflected, trust and believe. And so I was praying, it's like, Lord, I need to do something else. And so oddly enough, this was back in the 90s. And I said, I need to get out of here. I need to move. I need to do something different. And had started negotiating with a venture capital firm, which I had no idea what that was at the time, but there was a great position that they were talking to me about. I can't remember the details now because it's been, over 25 years. But my husband had been given a church in a branch of the Methodist Church. And if I don't know how big Methodism is across the pond, but Methodist is an Episcopal government. There's two kinds of religious governments. There's Episcopal and congregational. Episcopal just means you are sent places based on the itinerancy of Jesus. So a bishop will send you somewhere. And my husband called me at work one day and said, hey, babe, what do you think about Tennessee? And I said, I think it's a state in the union. What about it? I said, I know it's in the South. And he said, well, Bishop called and he's, offered me the opportunity to pastor a church there. And I was less than thrilled. I'm like, really? Are you serious? And I remember stopping at my desk and looking up and I'm saying, Lord, what I really meant was perhaps I didn't make, what I meant when I said, I need to get out of here, not out of Chicago where I'm born and bred. I've got, my relatives, my friends, my support group, we've got 2 children by this time. I'm like, that's not what I meant. Going south? Are you kidding me? I'm a Northerner, Yankee through and through. Nonetheless, we talked about it and Jim felt led to take that opportunity. And I really prayed long and hard and said, okay, I will not divide our household. We're going to, we're in this to win this. And we're not going to do the commuter marriage thing. So, I packed up my little stuff and we went south and we're still here.
Good.
We're still here. Yeah. Yeah. Big adjustment, but I made it. And, and with, as my mother calls it, planes, trains, and automobiles, I can be anywhere I need to be within a few hours. So that's, it wasn't as daunting as I thought it was. It was just the initial shock. So I was like, what am I going to do? I don't know anybody. And I thought, ding dong, you have a telephone. The internet wasn't like quite as big as it is now, but we did have regular telephones and, we had a family cell phone because that was in the days of the brick. The thing looked like you had to carry it on your shoulder. But we managed and it turned out to be a good experience. My children are happy here. And that's where we are now.
Over here, you tend to get the over here you tend to get the Methodist, the Episcopal. A lot of churches who were Episcopalian are splitting from the Episcopal Church to more become independent because over here the Episcopalian Church is becoming more or less Christian as they are due to a lot of certain issues. Hence, that's what's happening over here. Because of the way they're agreeing with a lot of things that we shouldn't be agreeing with technically.
Well, religious freedoms and those kinds of things. I try to stay away from those discussions because they usually lead to arguments. Religion and politics, isn't that the two things they say don't get too deep in?
Yeah, so that's why. So there's over here there is that kind of thing. A lot of them are becoming because they're not quite going down the right road these days. So hence there's a lot of people, churches are splitting away from them because of that scenario. But I won't go into it because it can open up a can of worms in our discussion for later days. But yeah, so we've kind of covered a little bit. We've kind of covered you with obviously life growing up. We've covered what you did now, but we've covered the building, how you got into your faith, and now. So I suppose it's really we'll dissect the now, which we talked at the beginning. We'll dissect just how you've moved because your husband's moved because of ministry. Did you just support your husband in ministry? Did you get another job in some? Was it a venture capitalist you went into in Tennessee, or was it something?
I never took the venture capitalist job. That was in Chicago.
Right,
when I had prayed, it was time for me to leave the law firm. I knew that it was coming to an end. It had lost its luster, and I was just looking for a different position.
Okay, so and
then when he called, we moved to Tennessee.
So what did you get a job yourself, or did you just let him support him and be a pastor's wife?
Yeah, about that.
Okay.
Okay. I don't want anybody to think that I'm, docile and super subservient and all that. Have always been very much my own person, and my husband always loved and respected that about me. So it was a big shock when we moved here. The church had a parsonage, and he said, "Babe, I know that you have worked your entire life. I'd really like to take that pressure off of you. I really just want to give you the freedom to stay home and raise the kids." And while there are probably some women listening that would go, "Oh my God, I'd love that opportunity," I didn't quite welcome it in the same way. I mean, the first few weeks, it's fine. You don't have to you have to get up, you fix the kids' breakfast. You do the whole TV sitcom scenario thing where it's just wonderful. And that you come home and dinner's cooked every night and the clothes are hung back in the closet and, the floors are glistening and all of that. But here's the thing. I didn't know anybody here except for the people at church. And the people that I knew in Chicago, I was now in a different time zone from them and they worked. So I felt less than fulfilled. And so we sat down and I said, look, this is driving me crazy. I really need to go out and at least find something to stimulate me. And volunteerism isn't quite it for me. So would you be okay with me finding at least a part-time position? And one of the women in the congregation who came to be my dearest friend, and actually she and her husband came to be our dearest friends as a couple outside of even the church. You know what I mean? The church what made it possible for us to find each other, but our friendship lasted even after we were sent to a different congregation. She said, actually they're hiring at the law firm that I work at. And so I ended up getting the job, and it was nice for a while. I knew that law wasn't all that I wanted to do, but with the credentials that I brought and the experience that I had, on the corporate law side, it really helped a lot because I didn't have to learn certain things. I already knew them, how to research a case, how to write, draft a legal document, blah, blah, blah. So that turned out well, but I knew that wasn't it for me. So then when I talk about varied backgrounds, then I accepted a call. There was a need for a minister at a church. One of the pastors had left in the middle of what they call the conference year. The conference is a yearly meeting where appointments are made. In other words, where pastors are commissioned to go or not. And a pastor had to leave rather abruptly in the middle of a conference year. And they asked me, because I had the credentials too, ordination and whatnot, would I mind filling in? And I said, sure. Because I'm thinking, okay, I have some administrative strengths, and I know how to preach. I've got education. And I ended up falling in love with the congregation and they with me, because I don't know if anybody has ever articulated like this, but any body of people, congregations, families, they have their own distinct characteristics and personalities. And mine was a really good fit for them and vice versa. And so I was there 2.5 years. And there were some political things going on in the church, not in my local congregation, but in the leadership. And I knew my days were numbered because sometimes the Chicago inner thug, as I see, comes out. And for me, no means no. I don't argue with you because we're all grown. And so I said, I can't do this anymore. I just can't. And I didn't. But I had, children to feed. And as they get older, they want more stuff. And more stuff costs money, Frazier, And so I had to find a different way to help meet the bills. And we decided to get our own home as opposed to depending on parsonages, because quite frankly, parsonage life is not all that it might appear to be. People think, oh, you got free rent from the congregation. Yeah, but there's tons of terms and conditions that apply. So we got our own home. We call it the official White House because we spell our name with a Y. And so our White House, the WHYTE, is where the administration never changes. And we don't worry about bipartisan agreements or otherwise. It's mom and dad ruled. So I had to help meet the obligations of the White House. So I got a sales career, answered an ad in the paper, went in and started selling business services for a national company, won many awards, went up a little bit the ladder. And loved it for most of my career there. And here's where the segue into what I'm doing now comes. It wasn't I had been there just shy of 11 years when my husband got sick.
Oh dear.
Really sick. He had what's called AML, acute myeloid leukemia. And this was not his first round with cancer. He had Hodgkin's lymphoma, which we successfully beat almost 10 years before then. And obviously my attention was not on my career as much as it was on keeping his spirits up and his will to fight strong. And this was more inpatient than the other one had been outpatient. So in a nutshell, I called out to my divisional vice president at the time, and I said, here's what's going on. You know, I've got a Bluetooth in one ear and my other ear open because I'm sitting in my husband's hospital room trying to listen in on these company conference calls and trying to be his advocate, because with these chemo cocktails, he's sometimes, you know, not truly with it. And they let me know that my basic thing was, I just need some grace with upcoming deadlines. I might need some, because my focus is not there, you know? Yeah. And they said to me, so you want to risk your career or put it on hold after all of these years just because somebody in your family got sick? And Fraser, I used to talk for a living. Come on, I'm a preacher. I'm a salesperson. You know, there ain't many things that get me speechless, but that was one of them. And I realized then, even though it hurt, it stung, it pissed me off.
Don't blame
I
me.
realized after a while, it was just business. And so I pretended to work. I left. I had to leave. You know, I had to dance with the one who brung me, and I had to leave with the one who brung me. And Jim was that one. And so I ended up leaving the company. And finally, he figured it out, because he wasn't as out of it as I thought he was. He realized I was in that hospital room a lot more than I was out of it, and during the day. And he said, what's going on? And I told him, and he said, good. And I said, what? He said, good. It hasn't served you in a long time. And the deal was, when it stopped being fun, when you stopped enjoying it, you were going to leave. I'm like, yeah, but babe, you know, we have ongoing expenses while you're here, you know, trying to fight this thing. You know, we got the mortgage, we got the utilities, and the children want to eat every day, doggone it, sometimes more than once a day. You know, we've got to make that happen. And he said, you'll find something else. I said, like what? You know? And he said, start your own business. And I said, what? He said, start your own business. And I said, doing what? He said, doing what you do best, showing people how to treat each other. And I'm like, you think there's a market for that? He said, yeah. He says, I said, do you think I could do that? He said, there's a reason why you had more letters of reference on the walls of the office than all of the other salespeople and the manager combined. There's a reason why you lead in referrals. There's a reason why people come back to you time and time again. You know what you're doing. You know how to treat people. You already know in ministry, you have a heart for service. Just find a way to package that for the business world, because it's sorely missing. And I said, I'll think about it if you really think I can do it. And he said 8 words to me, Fraser, that started me on the path towards what has now become Gratitude Speak. You want to hear those 8 words, or do we need to go to a break?
Oh, we'll take a break, because what we'll do is I'll play some random music, and we'll do that, and we'll come back. I'm going to pick after hearing that story about the best song, I'll play one of BENITA Charles's songs. It's about making a difference, and it's called We Can Make a Difference, and it's actually a fantastic song. So we'll come back after BENITA Charles, and it's a fantastic song after hearing that, and it's certainly wow. And but yeah, so we'll hear those 8 words, and we'll come back after the BENITA Charles.
us reach out and take each other's hand. We can make a difference. Sometimes a smile is all you need to lift somebody's day. We can make a difference. For as long as there is life, there's always hope. Hope for a better world and all humanity. Together we can heal and rebuild our nation. We can make a difference. No matter who you are or where you've been, we can make a difference. There's nothing we can't do when we work together. We can make a difference. For as long as there is life, there's always hope. Hope for a better world and all humanity. Together we can heal and rebuild our nation. We can make a difference. Yeah. There is nothing too small, nothing too great. One act of kindness will go a long way. Together we can make it, just you and me. We can make a difference. We can make a difference, yeah, yeah. We can make a difference. We can make a difference. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So welcome back. That was the BENITA Charles song we just listened to. I've just been hearing a very challenging story. Thank you for my guest, Marcia Whyte. Originally from Chicago. And as I say, one thing I like about Chicago is I love watching Chicago Med, Chicago Fire, and Chicago PD because I cannot get enough of it because I love it. I love watching it. It's addictive, and I have to say, and she might watch herself. I don't know, but we'll come back to see maybe what she does watch on TV. She's got any favorite TV shows that she watches. But before, we'll just come back to this challenging story. What are those 8 words that your husband said?
The 8 words he said to me about starting a new chapter in my life and in business were trust your gut, trust the process, trust God. I'll say that again. Trust your gut, trust the process, trust God. And those words have served me so well because this was a complete and total faith journey. So I began by taking some of the business connections I had, stepping out on faith that I could really do this, that I could get people, first of all, that I could make a business of it, that I could find clients, people to let me come in and do some trainings on, employee engagement, workplace culture, all the things that I now know. I didn't even know of the customer or client experience as being the niche that it is. I just knew this is what I said I was going to do. And just as I started to get a little confident, this conversation with Jim took place in mid-July. He was gone the first week of September. out of the blue, and I was devastated. And I went into a very dark place for quite a while. And through that, it was really a faith journey. You know, in the 23rd Psalm where it says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. I pitched my tent in that valley because I really felt that I was going to stay there for the rest of my life as I knew it. Thank goodness, you know, I finally came out of it. But when I came out of it, I really had to rethink who I was, why I was here, what I was going to do. You know, I had a family that was looking to me. I had people that were interested in supporting me in business, and I had a promise to honor. And so I pushed through and made gratitude speak all that it is still becoming, because I haven't arrived yet. I don't know what it'll look like when I finally feel I have arrived, but it's ever evolving. And as my market grows and as my client base grows, as my social media following grows, as my message expands, I now know this is where I am to be. And the reason is we've all had, I don't care what country you're in, I don't care what city or township you're in, I don't care whether it's been online or whether it has been in person, we have all seen and probably experienced a bad customer experience. We've had that. You know, a clerk has been nasty, a waitress has been less than interested in us. The return has been, you know, horrible, the return policy. We've had charges at the bank that we disputed and it seemed like they didn't care. I mean, there's just all kinds of crazy scenarios. Those don't have to be quite the nightmare they are. And especially small businesses, because like I said, big businesses really have departments now that are aware of that. And if they're a big business and they're not, please send them my way because I'd love to have that conversation. But for the small entrepreneur, like I said early in the beginning, Dell, a huge giant in the computer industry, knew back in the 90s, the mid 90s, they assigned a customer experience council to track. It's called a customer journey. And so I teach customer journey mapping. Well, here's why it's so important. Ladies and gentlemen, friends of Fraser, as it were, 68%, according to the United States Small Business Association and the United States Chambers of Commerce, this statistic, sad as it is, does not vary much year to year over the past few years that they've been collecting this data. 68% of consumers, be they corporate consumers or business consumers, you know, you and me kind of people consumers, 68% say that they would not do repeat business with a particular brand because of a poor client experience. And sometimes brands are so focused on getting new clients, they forget that if you do something to keep your client retention and referrals up, your revenue will continue to flow. My customer experience icon, Fraser, is the late Walt Disney. Okay. You know, and he's my icon for several reasons. Number one, the Disney Leadership Institute is a global phenomenon that teaches people all over the world, you know, yearly how to take care of customers, as they call them, guests in Disney World. But he said something. He said, whatever you do, do it well. Do it so well that people will come back to see you do it again and again. And they will want to bring others to show them what you do and how you do it so well. That's my mission for Gratitude Speak, to teach business owners, to get them to understand as entrepreneurs and brand managers, the importance of not, you know, making everything so cheesy and cheeky, but really having a good, solid workplace culture, because happy team members, be they remote or a big, you know, large employee base, if they are engaged and they buy into the company's mission, vision, and values and align that with how they serve, you will have less what they call customer churn, which is the if you can see the churning of a wheel where customers fall off. So if you're interested in client retention, referrals, and revenue, which are the three mainstays of business, you need to take your customer experience seriously. And that's what Gratitude Speak is all about.
That's what I've do with one of my clients, new clients recently. Actually, I start because I showed them a way of cleaning, because I cleaned their off was a doctor's surgery, but I help save them money by showing them a different way and products to buy, because it's not just, I do contracts, I provide the products for cleaning, but this is just labour only, and I help them starting to save them money so in a process of cleaning, which is better and which is it's cost effective basically, so it's not using and a lot of, and that's what I like to do. I think I understand what you mean by cheesy. There's a lot of people you hear who try and sell their business, and it just sounds really, it's so cheesy. It's hard. It's cringeworthy to watch, and you must feel that and you go, does this kind of person really know what they're talking about? And you wonder, and I'm not going to say any names, but I certainly had that experience as well. But there's some, you listen to them, you feel like they're just, you just have to kind of, use people, you see that and you go, really? You really know what you're talking about in business? And it just sounds so, it's the kind of, it's it's people you live, it's the kind of, I think I'm doing direction on video, but it's not doing video, we're actually just going to be audio only. It's the kind of, it's the waving the arms in the air and the kind of glamour and thinking they're kind of to make it look really sound interesting, but at the moment it's just reeks of cheese, literally.
Yes.
It's just like, really?
And people know they have choices, and they'll make those choices and leave you to be scratching your head thinking, why did they leave? And meanwhile, your industry colleagues, I really don't like the word competition, because I think there's enough for all of us. And that's not naivete. I mean, there's 7+ billion people in the world. Come on, one company can't service them all. Yeah. But your industry colleagues are out there saying, we'll take much better care of you. We'll take at least, as good a care of you, if not better. And they'll give them the chance, because competition is but a mouse click away.
Yep.
It's just one tab away. People can sit on their phones and pull up a different website. It doesn't take a lot to research what's going on in whatever field you're in, whatever industry you're in, whatever city or town or country or county you're in. And so it's competitive. Here's the thing. Customer experience is the new competitive battleground. It really is. Businesses are becoming more aware every day that it is how that customer feels through all of the processes, including the follow-up, that makes them decide to stay or to go. They'll give you a chance, but if you don't show that you appreciate them, that, you honor their decision to do business with you, they'll move right on to the next one, and you'll be, again, left scratching your head. So what I do is vital. What I do is viable. What I do works. It's an enjoyable thing. But we look at, as you call it, from the rooter to the tutor of your business. You know what I mean? We've got to figure out, let's look at mission, vision, values. Let's look at employee engagement, and let's look at, the company workplace culture, and let's look at your systems and see what's the journey look like. And so it's a complex, but not a difficult. I don't want anybody to think it's daunting, but the thing is to enjoy it, because all it does is make your company and your brand stronger and able to serve more powerfully and more consistently in your marketplace space. So there you go. So
what we'll do is we'll take a quick break within our song, and we'll be back. I'll take a random mix and play a song. And we'll come back with Marcia, and we'll find out where you can connect with Marcia, and basically where you can reach out to her. I have to say, it's been a really interesting interview. How just hearing the background of her journey. And it's good. I'm glad she was I'm glad she was open and very open to just her life. And it's certainly struggle with her, I think near the end, with her husband, which is shown, certainly given her the direction of where she is now. And it just, as in life, we do go into these different paths, and our path is there for a reason, and you cross paths with people for a reason, and you meet, and things happen for a reason. So the good thing is that she's where she is now. And I'm sure wherever her path is going forward, whether it's to stay what she's doing or something different, I'm sure she'll, whatever happens, it'll be the right path. At the moment, she's serving people through helping the businesses and the entrepreneur, which is great. And we just pray that hopefully she'll continue to do that and things will continue to grow for her. But we're back after the song, and you can, as I say, you can connect. We'll find out where you can connect with her and do business with her. Even though I almost forgot about the podcast tonight because I was cooking a chicken. And we talked about it earlier. I thought, I didn't even forget my podcast over a chicken. But anyway, so we almost turned this podcast into a food podcast, but we didn't. But I'm sure we can talk about food later in our time, which is always good. But it's always good to talk about food and different recipes and things. But as I say, where you can connect with my guest, you might be able to talk food as well and connect with, share some recipes. And if you can't cook, I'm sure she'll help you learn. But we'll be back after this.
Sitting in class, see the parking lot. Used to be sun, but now there's raindrops. You're thinking how you can make it stop. Thoughts and prayers are sent along, but they don't fix what is really wrong. We think we're weak, but we stand strong. I was in the room, but I was out of my head. Could have been prevented, but nothing was said. We need leaders where no one's led. Maybe when our tears start to dry, maybe when our hearts can unify, maybe when we see eye to eye, it's up to us, and we decide that it is time. It is time. And it is time. Never again. 'Cause it is time. Sitting in class thinking about the test. But how can I think when there's such unrest? Every time I think, my face gets wet. Things are said, but nothing's ever done. We need some changes for the long run. Let the world be safe for everyone. I was in the room, but I was out of my head. Could have been prevented, but nothing was said. Let's be leaders where no one's led. Maybe when our tears start to dry, maybe when our hearts can unify, maybe when we see eye to eye, it's up to us, and we decide that it is time. It is time. And it is time. Never again. Never again. 'Cause it is time. Music spreads through the speakers and they share this song with all their friends. We make the change and this all ends. Joey's in class with his textbook. He's not worried, he feels safe. Just look, now the sun is shining in the parking lot, and there's not a single raindrop. Now that our tears finally dried, now that our hearts have unified, now that we see eye to eye, it's up to us, and we decide that it is time. It is time. And it is time. Never again, 'cause it is time.
Hey everybody, Pat Voss here, your local broadcaster and voiceover guy. For voiceovers, contact me now at broadcasterpat@gmail.com or DM me on Twitter and Instagram at GLDNvoice_shine now. To hear me on the radio, go to 98.3 FM WRLR, the voice of Lake County, either the website or the TuneIn app now. And again, thank you so much to Ramsay Unleashed, Going Beyond Borders podcast. And now, back to the show.
And welcome back to the final part. And my guests, I thank you for the time we've had. And thank you for being on the show, Marcia. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed it. Had discussed lots of things.
Well, I am
had a really good time.
Ramsay Unleashed, Going Beyond Borders. I do like to keep it unleashed and keep it kind of raw and real. It's all about being real. It's not about, as in the day, I suppose, as she said, we don't like the cheese. We do like the cheese, but not that cheese. But as I say, it's good to keep it real and keep it fresh and to inspire people. And hopefully that by listening to Marcia, even feel inspired in some way and want to connect and go forward. So as I say, tell us where people can connect with you. We will have your links. That's my phone. We will have the links in the show notes where people can connect with Marcia, or like Facebook or Instagram or whatever links that she sends us, and we'll have all that in the show notes. So please tell us where people can connect with you.
Well, I'm on social media as Gratitude Speak, no S at the end. And the reason for Gratitude Speak is it's a language all its own, just like medical jargon and legalese. So Gratitude Speak, one word. On Facebook, however, my business page is Gratitude Speak, B-I-Z, Gratitude Speak Biz. But on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and on LinkedIn and Instagram, it's just Gratitude Speak. Facebook is Gratitude Speak Biz. If you'd like a call with me, you can go to bit.ly/speak with Marcia, Marcia, Speak with Marcia. And I have a little gift. I know you'll have it in the show notes, Fraser, but I have a gift for your audience, for those who would like to download a PDF of my first book, which was my bestseller. It's called Gratitude Speak, From Loss to Leadership, and it's the backstory of my brand and my personal journey. So there is a there's a bit.ly link for that, and I will give that to you in the show notes. Unless you'd like me to say it here, it's really your call.
Oh, but if people remember it, they can, as I say, it'll be in the show notes, and they can just tell us. So bit.ly/capital G, capital S, that's for Gratitude Speak, hyphen, capital Summit, SUMMIT, and then capital GIFT. All right, so I think it'll be easier if I just put it in the show notes. Yeah.
Yes.
That's cool. Well, is there anywhere else people can connect with you or anything else?
They can always reach out to me again at bit.ly/speak with Marcia, or they can email me at Marcia, Marcia, at gratitudespeak.com.
Cool.
Marcia, Marcia, at gratitudespeak.com.
And we can maybe, sometime down the line, we can actually discuss, how many books have you written?
3.
So we can maybe down the line, we can do a part 2. And we can talk about our books. Obviously, we appreciate.
Well, 2 are actually books, and then 1 is a journal.
So
which would make a lovely gift.
There we go. So there's something we can you can maybe do a part 2 and talk about our books and our journal, and briefly on our time. And but as I say, we appreciate the gift. People who can download the book and our free PDF, and the link will be in the show notes. As I say, so again, thank you for the time.
The pleasure was mine. Thank you.
And hopefully I've not scarred you for life.
No, I'm good. I'm good. But I'm probably going to do some cooking after this because you've made me hungry, and it's getting on to dinner time now.
Well,
and I'll have visions. I'll have visions this evening of you eating your chicken with that wonderful dressing in there. So,
well, you can check out my story. You'll see I made it. I'm going to post the pictures of it cooked now, and then that's what I'm going to do. So, at least we'll try it and go from there. So that's see what I've done. Something different. So it's all good, all good. But anyway, thank you for being on the show, and thank you for everything. And and to everyone who's listening, have a great one, and have a till next time. I do have some upcoming guests. I have a previous guest I'm interviewing, Tequila Adolph, all the way from Texas. I'm going to talk about her topic is diverticulitis, and I've also got I can't remember the name, dominatrix. That's what I'm going to do. Somebody who has been through a rough part in her life, but it also is how she's turned her life around and making, let's say, lots of cash, as some would say. But that will be another person you can hear and may want to connect with as well. And as I say, maybe may want to connect with Marcia as well. And anyway, so to everyone, take it easy, have a great one, and we'll speak to you soon. All the best. Bye for now.